Hey guys, welcome to Wholehearted Loving. Today we're doing a call-in show with Mia, who has chosen to remain blurred and anonymous because she's going to be talking about some pretty intense stuff in her life. She came to us wanting some support around leadership. And in the course of our talking, we realized there was a lot more underneath. If this is the kind of work that you need to do in your life, or if self-connection and peace has become a priority for you, we are launching a program in September called Priming the Body for Peace, which will be a live video calls and group coaching program. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's start off with a self-connection practice. Let's ground into the space before we connect with each other.
Okay. Steph, do you want to lead one or do you want me to lead one? Okay, you're pointing at me. Okay.
Yeah.
Mia, are you sensing the need for more stillness in this moment or a need for movement? And the movement might be big or small.
I'm feeling a need for holding. How do we do holding?
Oh, we can do holding. Beautiful. So let's connect to your anchor spot. So that's your butt on the chair, your feet on the ground. Maybe it's your back resting on the couch or the bed. And once you've connected to that anchor spot, just give yourself a moment to notice your breath. And because for you, it were so clear about a desire for holding, I want to bring that back up. See if you can connect to that desire for holding, whether it's the thought for that desire or it's a body craving, and see if you can connect to that feeling or thought. And when you're ready, we'll take the right hand. We'll place it under the left arm. And we'll take the left hand and place it either on the right shoulder or the right arm. And you might try both to see which one feels the best. And notice the weight of your hand, and that weight offering that reassurance of it's okay to be here. You can notice what happens to your breath in this hold. And you can also experiment with letting the head and the neck drop. And I like to bring some attention in this hold to the inhale, noticing maybe your chest or belly expanding. It's being here for 2 more breaths. And now taking a moment to check in to see if your body wants this hold for a little longer, a few more breaths, or if it feels ready to emerge from this hold.
I'm not going to want to move for a while, so
if you notice that your body would like it longer, and also you notice the part of you that wants to begin the conversation, you can also just acknowledge for yourself, either out loud or quietly to yourself, of body, I feel you. And I notice you want more of this holding, and we're going to come back to this later.
I'm going to keep my hand in my armpit and on my arm while we talk. No, I really noticed when we were doing this, and I've been noticing over the past couple of months and unwinding this for myself. I don't hunch in my shoulder area. I hunch inside my abdomen.
Oh, interesting.
There's
Okay.
this releasing that happens when I hold this very soothed ability to let go of that inner hunch.
Yeah.
How are you feeling, Mia?
I am feeling more held than I was before. Comfortable. Yeah.
Good.
This blanket is very soft.
Good. Is it at all possible for you to turn your microphone up somehow? Or closer to face, yeah?
Yeah, I guess my concern is I'll keep knocking it. Is that better?
That's way better, yeah.
Okay. Before we I know we're recording, but before we start, does the grounding get aired or no?
Yeah. Usually.
Okay.
Unless you don't want it to, for some reason.
No, because I was going to share something personal.
Oh, we can pause it.
Yeah,
I can't pause it, but I'll put a little marker.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I realized I do need to name this when I was able to get a little more centered. I am full. Capacity is like kind of highish right now. So I just want to say that you might, I might have big reactions, which Georgiana might know, but you might not know. Just know that I'm okay. But my father has a recent cancer diagnosis, and I just found out this, and it's like not major. But I just found out this past Saturday that I'm going to be moving in with him, and it's just a fuck of a lot. And so, yeah, I'm holding a lot, and I wish I was holding less to do this, and it is one of those. So, but also really grateful to be doing it with you during this hard time. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Me too.
Something I want you to know is that I feel like I'm a lot like you. And so I am a person who has big feelings and big reactions, and I tend to burst into tears. And I also want you to know that my dad is a survivor of 4 kinds of cancer at different times. So I feel you.
Thank you, Steph.
You do.
Give me one more second with that. Yeah.
Here. I like Mia.
I like you too. No surprise, considering our mutual contact.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like you both. So. I like you both. Thank you for letting us in on that part, Mia, and all the bigness and the silence and the not silence is all okay.
Okay. So yeah, I'm ready to begin.
Okay.
Well, so you wanted some support when you wrote in to us around leadership, stepping into power. You are, of course, welcome to change this topic to whatever you would like to talk about today. But I wanted to just open it up there. What are you wanting to connect about?
Yeah, I think the topic is the same. Some of the contexts are the same, and then there are a couple of new ones. But yeah, yeah, it's the scary one, which means I would love to do it with you both.
Okay. Is there some context here of when you're talking about stepping into leadership? Is there a new role in your life, or what's happening for you there?
Yeah, there's multiple ones. I will start with, I guess, the business one is that I am a relatively new small business owner as an intuitive healer with no experience in business and enough ADHD to keep me from really, doing all the things that need to be done well in order to make it happen. And also in a lot of trust that it is happening. And that started before I moved back down to Southern California. And the move was a lot unexpected. And coming back here means that I am with my family again. And that's where the familial leadership comes in. I'm like a younger elder at my age. And there are some younger family members that need some extra showing up for. And so I am engaging in new ways with them, having to learn adulting in new ways with them. And I'm happy to, and it's challenging. And with other family members too, including, I mentioned my father right now. And my biggest desire is to do this with the most graceful power that I can find in myself and, just garner from all my different resources. Because it's just the only way that works for me. That's not correct. There are plenty of unhealthy ways that work for me. It's the only way I want to do it. Yeah.
I feel like I want to ask you, what are the graceless ways to show up? That's right.
Can air all my dirty laundry here. Yeah, to anyone who happens to be listening and you're like, oh yeah, that one. Sorry.
You're going to be representing a lot of people here right now, Mia.
You're going to wish you. I wish to hell I could have done better by you. I hold a lot of regret. And I'm not fully in the clear where, parts of me still make excuses. But overall, I absolutely do wish, I could have done better by so many people. I grew up in a very, very much power over hierarchical, no questions asked, do as I do environment, both in my family and both as a military dependent. And also with different types of abuse that I did my best not to perpetuate, but I still did. And some of it could have been very subtle even, very Asian in terms of the way I would wield my energy. Other times it was very much more aggressive and angry. There's a lot of suppressed anger that would burst out. Or demanding, energy. So yeah, and the thing is I avoided leadership actually my whole life, very intentionally. I come from a family of leaders and I do tend to be more of a independent person. And part of why I want to do this is because I actually resent being a leader. And yet
You're in the right position then. That's exactly right.
Interesting how life puts this in front of you now. Yeah. For those of you who are not watching the video, you should watch that last moment.
I know, right? That is how it goes. And so it's like, Mia, it's time to get over the resentment and the fear and find out what is actually there for you. And it's taken a lot of life like battering up against me because I'm very stubborn also to get that message across. And so I'm finally listening.
So you're being called into leadership in your life. This is not something that you're inserting yourself needlessly in. This is something that's being asked of you in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a really powerful place of making that choice. And I think it's wonderful that you know how you want to show up. One of my first questions to you is going to be, how do you want to show up as a leader? And you already know you want to show up gracefully. And, what I'm getting from you is with fairness and love and compassion. You want to give people what they need as opposed to what you might desire for them, different vibes. Yeah. And yeah, that'll conflict with all of the conditioning. You've mentioned military upbringing, Asian upbringing, some abuse, some harshness, and what a wonderful breeding ground to learn how you want to show up in these support roles in leadership for your family.
After being the one who stayed away and was both perceived as the one avoiding all the responsibility, when I was working my ass off to heal, to be able to show up, even though I didn't know that would be the end result. Yeah.
Right. So then it's not just your own resentment you're fielding. It might be resentment from some other people as well. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. These are powerful data points to have.
Although I should say that my family does hold me with a lot of, I don't know if it's grace or if they just gave up on me. So it seems like if there were any resentments there, they don't really show up.
Right. And there's love there then, it sounds like.
Yeah, there actually is. It took me a long time to see it.
Wow. Oh, Mia, I just want to acknowledge you for having the courage to redefine your relationship with power and with leadership. That's really what I'm sensing. Like rewriting this lineage of what power means and what a leader is. Hell.
Mm-hmm.
You said I took this time intentionally away to heal. And before you said that, the thing that came up, I jotted down, was self-leadership. Right? Maybe you've been spending a long time intentionally learning to lead yourself in a way that's softer and with more grace, with more fairness and compassion. And now that you have that practice, you can bring that self-leadership into these new roles.
I think I'm just going to cry through the whole podcast.
That's okay. We might join you.
Please too. Yeah, and I actually only wanted to be responsible for myself and not others. And that's not how it works.
Is there any part of you that resents having to be responsible for yourself?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, less now. A lot less now. But yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like emotional neglect, and so yeah, that was very internalized, and so there was a lot of resentment of having to, there still is a lot of resentment of having to take care of myself, and I just happen to be currently working through a lot of that, and not being triggered by the fact that I have to care for myself, or that I am deserving of care. Like that's a trigger, which makes it kind of hard to care for yourself. Yeah.
I think it's really important that you speak that out loud, just so that I know there's going to be so many people who listen who get that sense of, oh, I'm not a shitty, irresponsible person for feeling resentful about having to be a grown-up. You know, a lot of us had to grow up a lot earlier than what's healthy for a young child. And we manage and we function as adults. But there's also this inner piece that wants to tantrum and say, no, I don't want to do it. I'm done. Done taking care of everything and everyone. The last thing I want to do is be responsible. So thank you for sharing that piece.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify that my experience is different from that, in the sense that I come from more of a flattened place, a collapsed place, where I was the youngest. I was very coddled in many ways, definitely spoiled, and actually did not have responsibility. And that's part of where my unworthiness comes from, is that I did not have a role in my family. And so also, like, having all these things taken care of just made it so that I did not learn those skills. But a large part of it is the emotional neglect of feeling like I'm not worth being taken care of as like a person, my heart, my soul, things like that.
Yeah.
I love you completely, and I just identify with you so much. We're the same person. It's amazing. That collapsed feeling, who somebody cleans the house in the night. You know, I don't do these things. Everything is just taken care of, and now I'm out here having to do it myself. What the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, knowing you both, like, Mia, I love that you distinguished between all these practical things maybe were done and there weren't responsibilities placed on me. And yet there was a hole in terms of the emotional caring for. And, you know, me knowing stuff too, like, I know that, like, your parents love you. And at the same time, there's this nurturing that you both needed more of when it came to your emotional experience.
So that it's almost easier to take care of other people, right? We don't have this sense of value internally. Our emotions have been dismissed or ignored, or we just haven't learned how important they are and how informative they are for our lives. And that makes for sort of, I love the word you used, collapsed. It's this, it's not full of anything. And it's confusing and sort of listless is the word I would use to describe it, and resentful, you know? It takes a lot of work, and I love that you took time for yourself and connected with your own being and your healing, because learning to support ourselves in those ways is the only way to step into any kind of leadership, to have our own back. And like our heart to genuinely have it. And there's so many layers to that. And I want to say, I can't remember if we had hit record or not when you were mentioning regrets you had and ways you've shown up as a leader before. I also identify really strongly with that. There's like a harshness, an armor. Why can't things just be better and easier? And why can't people just have their shit together? And look, here, I'll tell you what the answer is, just go do it, kind of thing, that I used to bring a lot to my leadership. And softening that is an inner experience of softening in support of ourselves, and then being able to share that compassion outwardly. One of the problem is the word I'll use of being a compassionate person is that it can be so painful. You know, and learning to support those parts of your heart is critical to stepping out into the world.
At this point, are you familiar with synesthesia?
I know the word.
Yes, I just heard that recently. Yes, but can you share more about that?
Yeah, it's where your brain mixes signals between the senses. So it's like you can smell colors or hear numbers, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I have it's at a point where, like, yes, I'm compassionate and I'm empathetic, but the amount of time and energy it takes to feel the things, process the things, I'm starting to wonder if I have some sort of synesthesia with my feelings and different stimuli. Because it's hitting where I'm like, this is really not quote unquote normal, you know?
Can you, when we're off the call, will you send me your birth data? I want to look up your human design chart and see if there's anything in it. You know, we were just speaking with a woman who was describing her feelings. And I want to repeat this same thing to you. There is a lot more than just you going on in your energetic field and in your cosmic experience. You know, there are lots of energies going on that aren't yours and that you're interacting with. So yeah, there's more.
So coincidentally, I just had my first session, ancestor healing session yesterday, and even beyond that, entities, energies, etc. I totally hear that, and I will absolutely send you that information.
Look at that, all the pieces coming together.
Yeah. Now is the time,
right? You know, that all of those things aside, sensations are hard to feel and not feel taken, like, I mean, like, and not have them overwhelm us. That's what I mean. When we were not nurtured and held in that way energetically, emotionally, to be with our sensations, because sensations are very frightening for a young child who doesn't understand what's going on. And that's why babies need co-regulation, right? To be with all the big, intense sensation that they're experiencing, and to have a caring adult help them make sense of what's happening, and that they're not actually in danger, and that there is love and care and support, and the love and care and support isn't going away. So when we haven't had that consistently growing up, that on its own is enough to make feeling sensations challenging and overwhelming. And then you factor in other elements at play, and it makes sense why we're like, hide me under the covers. I'm out.
And then the confusing extra layer of having been maybe a bit coddled and, you know, all the needs, the technical needs taken care of, but that emotional piece missing is very confusing for our brains and our development.
Exactly. Yeah. I think, Georgiana, I know you're licensed one. I don't remember your roles, your trainings, Stephanie, but there's a part of me that's like, I've been doing pretty intense somatic work for like 10 years, a lot of inner child work for even longer. And I'm like, does it get less overwhelming? And it's like, I keep waiting for it to be less overwhelming. And I know it's a matter of like how I respond to that, but it'd really be nice. Like,
yeah.
And it is a lot easier now than before, but it's still not easy, you know?
You know, I think we don't give a lot of voice to the backlog. It's one thing to process what's coming up in the moment, but all of those feelings that were not held or loved are still somewhere in your body, you know?
Oh, I work with them all the time. All the time. And yeah, it's again, like having to function in overwhelm is so exhausting at this point, because I'm not going to stop doing that work, right? And I get breaks, and I do get stronger in some areas and more functional at times, but it's just a matter of time where it's like something, you know, will overwhelm me, and then the functionality will be less. And I'm single, and fortunately don't have dependents. But again, showing up for these younger family members, like, that's shifting. And that's why I'm like, how do I get resourced here?
Yeah. It's such an interesting, Steph and I have chatted about this, you know, because, you know, you said, fortunately, I don't have dependents. And in what, right? And sometimes that is fortunate when we're in overwhelm, that we just need to take care of ourselves. And other times I've said to Steph, like, other times I think I have it easier as much as it's hard being a single mom or a solo mom, but like there is somebody depending on me where I need to park this for a bit and give myself a break and focus on something else. And that gives a certain kind of reprieve that I think when you don't have dependence, you forget, and you can be so hard on yourself because you're like, but I don't even have to take care of anyone. I just have to take care of myself. And it feels so overwhelming. And so I want that to be a reminder that sometimes when you don't have dependence and people who are counting on you, it means it's even easier to slip into that overwhelm, right? Even easier to slip into those darker times of just ruminating on what's hard.
And only having the reflection of our own mind is often not the friendliest, you know? Yeah, I was going to say before G said that having those dependents might help them. They're younger. I don't know how much younger, but there is a beauty and innocence to youth that gives you a very different reflection than you might be experiencing, processing on your own.
Yeah, I have absolutely indulged in the self-centeredness of singlehood and childless singlehood. And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I also really want to voice, for all the parents out there for whom that doesn't work and they stay in overwhelm and they act.
Yes.
I know you don't not know that, but that's part of what I'm experiencing are the parents who for whom it is not a break and it's just adding to the overwhelm and there's severe underfunctioning. Yeah,
for sure. And that's why I think these practices of like the self-compassion muscle, the co-regulation, right? Because these parents are in such overwhelm already. They can't offer the co-regulation to their children because they can't regulate themselves. And often they are not in positions to have co-regulating resources and supports for themselves. So it's overwhelm on overwhelm on overwhelm, right? And it doesn't matter how much you love your children. When you're in survival state, there's only so much you can do. So yes, for sure. And that's hard to watch also from the outside.
Is this a fear that you have for your own experience, that you're going to arrive in this leadership position and find yourself overwhelmed and unable to show up the way you want to?
Yes, because it's already happened when I moved down here. I went straight into like codependent, Al-Anon mode and totally disregarded my own needs. And I was like, oh, save them. And then my personal finance is not the first time by any means. Personal finances, and my higher executive functioning was offline.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope it's midstream to say, it's okay to say midstream, and I'm sorry to cause more work for you, Stephanie. I think I am going to ask to go back to anonymizing this because I realize there's more I want to share. And I want to be able to speak more freely.
Yeah. All good, Mia.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for noticing. I noticed you notice your internal system so well. And like right in the moment, you can say, oh, wait a second, it's not this. Wait a second, it's this. That's going to be powerful for you, for your leading. Because you actually know very quickly what's working and what's not for you. And anyone who is in a position to receive support from you only benefits from you knowing what's working and what's not working right in the moment.
It makes so much sense that you go away and you do this healing, you learn all these different aspects of your mind and your behaviors, and you start experiencing them in your interactions. And then you go home to this place where your embodied experience is one of being coddled and ignored. And it makes perfect sense that you would resort to ignoring yourself when you arrive. and stepping in with your mind and your new skills, but your body has the confused experience of being back in that old place. So it makes a big jumble. And the only thing really that makes sense is that you would feel overwhelmed in that moment. And this is new and it's a process. So I want you to immediately forgive yourself for not having been perfect, whatever that means.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
As you now.
Do as I tell you.
You feel me. I know you do.
Yeah. 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 And that, for me, that rides the line of, because I definitely can forgive myself. And it's like, and then where am I letting myself off the hook? And I made the best decision I could. As one of my nephews, I did not know this before coming here, was suicidal. And so I was like, I don't give a fuck. I need to help him. And I'm not going to, I'm going to be late for rent because I fucked up. And the job that I was doing, I was like rideshare, Ubering. And that was very different down here. Did not realize it would pay so much less. And I just couldn't regroup fast enough. And I was like, okay, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, you're okay. And you shifted your priorities for a little bit because they were needed.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to give ourselves permission and grace for, and actually to be able to see that as a really powerful way of self-leadership. It can be important to me to pay rent. It's also important to me to keep or help support my nephew in being alive, right? And if it means I shift the priorities a little bit, that's what I'm going to do. And then when things are settled, like I reshift priorities. And that's what I sense happened for you.
You know, in more spiritual, metaphysical terms, when we're connecting and expressing more of our higher self, the elements of us that are aligned, that want to lead gracefully, when we step into those new energies, our lower selves, our corporeal forms, our physical manifestations act up, you know, and that's where we see things like not paying rent, or we're having these different worldly experiences that don't go quite as well as we'd like, because we're shifting our energy. We're growing new ways of being. So again, immediately forgive yourself for that also.
You're going to have doctor's note that just says, first prescription, immediately forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Dosage times 3.
Or more. Yeah. My therapist, who I just completely trust and adore, she's like, yeah, I don't think you made the wrong decision there. And having that, you know, that acknowledgement, because I don't get that acknowledgement here. I do have a couple cousins that, even though they understand, they support and they love, like, unconditionally. I'm very lucky. But I really needed her to say that, to come around to agreeing with that. And a part of me is still angry that I couldn't do it all at once. Because there's so many people that do. And it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Appearances. So many people do all these things and they don't feel anything while they're doing it. And, you know, they're not running graceful leadership, and they're not connecting with their family and the realities of pain in your life and in the world. You're doing it all right now.
That hit me in my root.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember what archetypal role it is. Like, I am like the healer in the family who feels everything and is incapacitated from the feeling, right? And of course, like in a family of like mostly neurotypical, typical functioning. It's just not understood, and I don't need to explain it to them, but just to be seen, is everything.
Yeah.
So in ancient times, you might have been what was called a sacred prostitute, where you feel the things and people come to you to consult about that, and then also to make beautiful love to you and honor you as a goddess.
I have thought about that. I have thought about that specifically. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it does come from a place of like a desire of loving generosity, right? And holding. Yeah.
The feelings are what tell us when something's up, and the reality is a lot of people don't want to know what's up. They can't handle what's up because as you're experiencing, it's bloody overwhelming,
Yeah.
And we're not given the tools to manage these things. So I'm proud of you for developing these tools for yourself and wanting to carry them with you into this challenging circumstance that you really want to rise to.
Yeah. I apologize that I rebuttal to anything, but to everything, but it really is just an add-on where there are people in my family that do feel all the things and function, and I think that's great for them. And so it's really hard not to compare, or that don't need to, and to the degree that I do. And I just say that because I want to give credit where credit is due,
No apologies needed, Mia. And also, I'm curious whether you've given yourself space and room to grieve and feel angry. That just in your family, you see people's different capacity and skill levels, and that yours is different. Has there been time and room to grieve that and to allow yourself to feel angry and pissed off about that?
I mean, it's really different from how it was 20 years ago, right? In bits and spurts, because it's been overwhelming since I've been back. But in terms of taking a lot of space for it, I have had some moments, but it just feels like this ongoing. I've not been able to devote an entire weekend to it, for example.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if we were to devote one moment to it?
Yeah.
Are you open to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And what I sense here, and maybe for you, you feel like it's something else that needs to be grieved, but when you speak about, you said, I have so much ADHD that's preventing me from doing the things that I know need to be done. When you speak of having neurotypical family members or family members who are feelers and still able to do the things, my sense is it's also important to allow ourselves to grieve what we feel we're not able to do in the same way. Right? Are you open to that for a moment?
Yeah. There's so much anger, Georgiana.
Are you able to open your eyes and feel that anger at the same time?
Usually not. It's actually very difficult for me. Yeah.
That's why I'm asking you to do it.
It might put me beyond capacity, but I will try. And part of it is the ability to focus without stimuli also. So sometimes I'll lose it as well. I lose it when my eyes are open too. But okay, let's go there.
Maybe connect a hand somewhere on your body that feels resourced. Yeah.
Yeah, opening my eyes puts me in a different state.
Yeah.
I do.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do to feel the thing that you feel needs to be felt right now.
I need to know that you're with me in this anger.
I am right here. I see you. And your anger is allowed. Right? And you can let yourself feel it. And you can also honor your capacity if you need a break from it.
It's just something where there's no one specific to be angry at because it's no one's fault.
So anger is an energy, and we typically learn to direct it at people or only let it out when there's someone to be angry at. That's not what you're experiencing. This is an energy, and it's more than just it being okay or not okay. It's what's happening right now. And we're here with you, and it's happening, and that's okay. There's plenty to be angry about.
Well, the truth under it. Do you all know Gabor Mate?
Yes.
So I subscribe to a lot of his ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And there also the knowing that so much of the underfunctioning does come from different traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like I did as much as I could living hundreds of miles away. And now I'm here to do the work up close, right?
Mm-hmm.
In real time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just new layers of it.
And just notice the weight of your hands on your face.
Part of the anger is like feeling that, I had accomplished so much in my healing, and then feeling like I'm taking these steps back by, being in the thick of it, being closer. And even though I know that is just what it is and it's not a step back, there's a part of me that feels like I'm being robbed of the progress I had made. And then especially not being seen in like the fullness of what I did accomplish is like so humbling. Like coming back here, being under function again, being seen as someone who doesn't have her shit together, still being like the outcast who is like irresponsible and lazy and just can't get it together. Part of me does like just acknowledge that it is what it is, and part of me is so angry because I work so hard all the time, and the labor I do is just not valued in my family culture. That's not entirely true, but generally it's not valued in my family culture. That is changing.
Do you have the experience in any area of your life of having your feelings validated, your journey, your healing welcomed?
yeah, just like my family where I wanted the most.
Yeah.
Ursula. Mia, do you feel that a pull to give your anger more of a voice and more space right now? Or is there something else you feel more pulled towards?
I sense the grief underneath it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think there's like some buffering from the pain. And so I'm not super connected to my feelings. I'm kind of floating, and I'm okay moving towards grief.
Yeah.
I just want to say here, this is also an opportunity for you to experience this anger in relationship right now by being irritated. For example, if I had insisted you keep your eyes open and then you feel completely like you're being dismissed, it would be a huge opportunity for that childlike anger that wants honoring to be exposed and experienced. There is that tack, or there is grief, or there is soothing.
It's interesting. The first place I went to was, how can I be of service to you? And I was like, Mia, it's the other way around right now. What are you talking about?
It's a good noticing.
Yeah, that's a powerful defense. When maybe what you want to say is, fuck you, what comes out is, how can I be of service?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be angry and compassionate at the same time, you know?
I don't have a fuck you. And I definitely, I wasn't angry at your pushing, because I feel very comfortable in knowing what I need to process. But I am fine staying with the numbness from the anger and going from there, because it did, it helped to talk out the pieces and name those, because I haven't had a chance to name them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like the withdrawing, because it is a lot.
So the fuck you is the same as with the anger. The anger and the fuck yous aren't necessarily directed at people. It's more of like an anger at God for the state of existence and the injustice and the inability and the powerlessness, you know? And we can really dodge from those feelings, especially if we haven't been supported in our emotionality. Our brains will just shut off. You know, what you're describing of being overwhelmed. Like I also have this experience. If I'm trying to do some work with somebody, I might have to be in physical contact with them. I'll have to close my eyes in order to get a message out. There is some element of dodging from our emotions that we've learned. And this is how we manage them. You're doing it. You're not failing right now. Hey guys, interrupting here to let you know that at this point, some pretty big stuff came up for Mia, and we spent some time working together through it. It feels private, so we have cut it out, and we're going to come back now.
So this is where it's like a multitasking, where I'm holding it to find out what it needs, and that is the thing that has surfaced. It's not formed or anything. It's just like the knot has risen.
Okay.
And I just want to give space to the knot.
Yes, please do.
Interesting. It's actually out here, and now it's clenched in my stomach. So I'm just breathing there.
Does the knot have a message?
Not yet. It's still in a sensory place.
Okay. Does it have a sound?
No, if anything, it's like, oh, let me check. I just immediately said no because that tends not to be how I receive. But no, yeah, it's sensation still. It's like the headache transferred, and so it's like plenty of steps removed from nausea, but more on that spectrum.
Okay. Are you wanting to process more of this for yourself right now, or are you wanting a break?
Oh no, yeah, I just want to share. Yeah, I think the pre-verbal stuff, just needs that pre-verbal space.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sometimes hearing language will, automatically kick off that part of my brain and just take away from the pre-verbal space.
I just want to give you permission to not need to explain yourself to us if you don't want to. So if you just need to launch into sound or movement, that's totally fine.
Yeah, it's all good. Right? And I'm glad that you feel free to say what you need.
I'm overwhelmed by my bladder. I'm going to be back in 1.5 minutes.
Pee with peace and ease.
Yeah, actually, it's important to come back because it's a lot. So I'd recommend.
Yeah. Take a break. Right? And I think it's important to honor the pre-verbal, like you said, to honor the process of, if words interrupt the process, it's good that it's good that you can share that. Can I offer also maybe another piece? What I wanted to offer for you, my sense is you do so much on your own in terms of holding your healing. And you know yourself so well in these moments of what you need. I wanted you to get to follow your own impulse and feel human presence with you.
Say what?
The pre-verbal child needed human presence with sound, with words, with energy, right? So I think it's really beautiful that part of your healing will be like just letting the stuff out, letting all the layers come up, sounding and not being interrupted by any other human presence. And then my sense is another piece of the work is to allow that to happen with human presence and words and sounds and touch and all the things that a young baby would need to feel held and to feel permission to fully express. Right, and all those elements make up the co-regulation. And because a baby is not co-regulated just with someone in the room, there's all these other elements, right? So that's what I would want you to, over time, get to experience in different ways, that the human presence can couple with the releasing.
You should talk to my therapist. She's like, I've been trying. Yeah. That is one of my biggest issues. And part of that was feeling safe enough to do that with others because it has not been safe.
Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so it's that double bind, right?
Yeah.
Of what I need is scary and painful. Right. And I am wanting very much, and I think I'm ready to enter that. And yet my system will also it will detach from that experience. And the leaning in is, of
course,
it's hard.
It makes sense. Right? It makes sense. And it's allowed to be gradual and slow.
How's your body feeling right now?
I unclenched my big thigh muscle, and so I'm now more comfortable. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So what you were talking about earlier, what you missed, Stephanie, is that I need to come back into my brain because it's overwhelming and I need to come into present space. What you were talking about earlier about like the overwhelm that infants and preverbal babies have, like the sensory overwhelm, that arose where it was just like a wall of static. And like just this, my little one just unable to process anything because it was just this huge wall of static. Yeah.
The other piece of having not been held in our feelings is that our feelings become so overwhelming in this way. And in order to feel like our feelings are valid, we create something that we feel is valid to get that love and that care and that attention. And so it inevitably makes it a lot bigger than it might have otherwise been.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. I know when I was growing up, everything was technically good, right? And yet I had all this anxiety that we didn't know about. I had all these big feelings that we all just sort of thought were too much and were a problem. So I turned that into a lot of psychosomatic issues that I didn't become aware of until 30 years later. In order for me to feel safe expressing feelings at home, they had to be a certain type of feelings. They had to be illness, or when I'd get to a point where the feelings were too much was the only time I could express them, So that wall of static you're describing feels very familiar to me, because what might be on the other side of it is something we weren't trained in how to deal with, or that our brains know, but that our hearts and our bodies don't yet know.
So being like an adrenaline junkie and being on that edge of sensation and feeling, but being kind of numb and disconnected before that point. Is that kind of what you're okay.
Sure, yeah. And lots of numbing, and all of this being unconscious, and then becoming conscious of it, as you say, doesn't make it go away. No, it just adds a layer of awareness. And I think for me, part of not wanting to go there, being blocked from going there, is knowing that even if I'm able to express with people, it's such a wonderful thing to feel supported in the areas of my life where I feel supported. And it also adds a layer of pain in recognizing that we maybe weren't supported in those ways, or that, as lovely as it is that you can express here, you'll feel the layers of pain that you can't express in this way with your family and feel held the way you'd like to. So this wall of static just makes all the sense in the world. And you get to decide what you want to do with it. This is part of learning graceful leadership, is deciding how you want to show up for yourself. You want to go when, in what ways you're ready and willing to explore all these big feelings. I just want to tell you that you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You're alive. You're paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have time today to be gentle with yourself, or is your schedule full after the call?
It's full until afternoon, and afterwards I do. And I'll actually be gentle with myself throughout whatever it is I'm going to be doing.
Great.
Well,
No need not to.
I'm going to suggest we do a self-connection practice to close things out, and we can check back in with you anytime. You know where to reach us now. You have our support.
Thank you.
Yep, for sure. Okay. Are you open to me walking us through a practice, Mia? Okay. Just bringing some awareness to keeping your hand on your face, your butt on the seat, noticing your breath. I'm going to have us take, are you right-handed? Left-handed, right-handed? Taking your right hand and just cradling the underside of the skull. And with your next exhale, see if you can let your hand just fall into that gentle holding. And then we're going to bring the left hand up to the forehead. It's too much. Yeah. Follow your body's lead. Right? Follow your body's lead. It's all good. Whatever your body's asking for. If it feels good to stay, you can stay. If it feels good to change up the body positioning, you can do that as well. Noticing your breath. Noticing what feels soothing now. And bringing more of that into this moment.
I have something to say. Mia, you mentioned family members who feel their emotions and are still on top of everything. And you came into this call talking about leadership. And a big part of moving from learning to lead ourselves into more external leadership can be about curiosity about other people's experiences and connecting in those ways. So what's coming up for me is an opportunity. It might not be, you know your family, I don't, but there could be an opportunity here for you to connect with those people around what their experience of life is, how they experience emotions and possibly leadership. But yeah, that's generally what's coming up for me is an opportunity to connect curiously with your family members.
I love this. I literally had that thought the other day, and that's such a brand new thought. And I love that you're saying that. And I feel like if I didn't have that thought, I might not be open to it.
Yeah.
All the things that Mia knows,
but resist. That's interesting, though, because when you're saying it, I was thinking of certain family members and feeling like how either it's not safe to do that or we don't have that relationship. And I was like, oh, I thought about that about these cousins. And okay, you do have access, you know? So, yeah. That's, timing. That would have been such a hard question. Yeah, until very recently.
Like that. Are you open to something like an idea for the family members that you maybe don't have that kind of access to at this point?
Yes.
To bring about connection to your body and curiosity and wonder of what might that be like for them. So it's not something you engage with them actively in if that connection doesn't exist right now or that openness and availability isn't there. But it brings you into a state of curiosity and wonder and openness just in yourself towards that person or towards those people. And energetically, I believe it's felt.
Yeah.
There's so much anger and pain and rejection even in contemplating that. And I love that question also. And I'm like, oh, that's going to take some doing to even be able to ask it.
That is a good realization because that might point to, oh, there's some anger and grief work first. Right?
So much work.
Yeah. Going somewhere. Yeah. This work is not futile. Good work.
Thank you for trusting us and letting us be human beings in your space when there might be strong patterning to do it yourself.
Yeah, kudos to anyone that can do this without having like the safety of connection that I already feel with you. Like, I feel very lucky. When I was like in the thick of it, that came up, and I was like, I am so glad that these women can hold me like this, and to be able to just go there is not something that comes easily at all. I'm sure for anyone, but to know that I was safe meant a lot.
Yeah. Or good.
Yeah.
Wonderful to hear.
Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting yourself.
I have to thank you for being trustworthy, because I know you developed that to be able to show up that way. And I think that's what goes off in me, is honoring the parts of you that did that to be here.
You're seeing reflections of yourself.
We can do this all day.
Yeah. We came together on this call for a reason today. The two of you met for a reason today.
Really?
Seriously, do another hour of that.
You know where to find us.
Recording for now. So farewell all the people, and we're going to keep talking.